Hi, this is Brett from SRmoto, and this is our Yamaha WR250X Supermoto project bike. And I wanted to do a quick video update on this bike. We've done a few things to it here the last couple months, and it's been quite a while since I did any type of update video on this bike, so that's kind of what I'm going to do today. If you're not familiar with the WR250X, this bike was made by Yamaha from 2008 through 2011, and it's basically the Supermoto version of the very popular WR250R Dual Sport model that they made from 2008 to 2020. The bikes share a lot of the same parts. The main difference obviously is going to be on the WR250X. It's going to have 17-inch wheels and tires front and rear, since it's designed to be ridden mostly on the street. It's also going to have a larger front brake to give you a little bit more stopping power on the street. So that's kind of the main differences between the X model and the R model. A couple other minor differences. The X model came with blacked out frame, front forks, and swing arm. And then the plastics, the color of the plastics and stuff were a little bit different. This is a 2009 model. This bike was all black when I bought it, and we've made a few changes as far as the plastics go and the graphics and stuff like that. But these were all, basically in 2008, they were all blue, like the WR250R Dual Sports. 2009, they were all black plastics. And then I think 2010, they were all white plastic. 2011, they were all white. I'm pretty sure that's how it went. A little background on this particular bike. I bought this bike in sometime 2009. At the time, I think I had a Kawasaki Ninja 250 that I was riding, and I started looking around for another bike, and sort of stumbled upon this bike, as well as the Suzuki DRZ 400 SM, which is another factory Supermoto. And the Supermoto style bike sort of intrigued me because I had always, raced motocross as a teenager, and I kind of grew up on dirt bikes. So I saw these bikes, and they're, basically dirt bike styling, dirt bike ergonomics, but with street tires. So bought one of these. And then this bike actually is kind of what started SRmoto, the company. After I bought it, I started, tinkering with it a little bit, noticed that there were a lot of aftermarket parts available for these bikes, and eventually I started selling parts for them online. And then not too long after that, I bought the WR250R Dual Sport and started selling parts for those. And that's kind of when SRmoto really took off, because the WR250R is a very popular bike, a lot of aftermarket parts and accessories for it. So SRmoto kind of really took off when I started selling parts for both of these bikes. And then eventually I ended up buying a DRZ 400 SM, started selling parts for that bike, and then a couple of the Honda dual sport bikes. And but anyways, this bike is kind of the bike that started the whole business for us. So I'll probably never get rid of this bike. I hadn't really been riding it a lot the last couple years. So a couple months back, I decided to kind of go through the bike, change all the fluids, redo the brakes, front and rear brakes, put new tires on it and stuff like that, so I could start riding it a little bit more. So I thought it'd be a good time to do a video, talk about what we've done to it over the years. So that's kind of what I'll do today. And I'll put links in the video description below to the project bike page on our website. So once you're done watching the video, if you want more details on the bike itself, check that video description for that info. So I'll kind of just walk around the bike and talk about what we've done to it. I'll start with the performance modifications. We replaced the stock exhaust with FMF Q4 muffler and FMF Megabomb header pipe. And then to tune the bike and get it running properly with the aftermarket exhaust, we've done a DynoJet Power Commander piggyback fuel controller, and that really, the combination of the two, you know, really wakes these bikes up, makes them run a lot better. At the same time, I did a Graves Motorsport air induction system block-off kit. That way you're not going to get the popping and backfiring on deceleration from that air induction system. Also did a 12 O'Clock Labs X-Up emulator, which that's a little plug-in module. When you take the stock exhaust off on these bikes, you're going to pull the X-Up system off the bike as well. And that little X-Up emulator from 12 O'Clock Labs just sort of tricks the bike's computer into thinking it's still on there, and that way you won't get a light on your dash. And the last performance mod we replaced the stock air filter with a no-toil Superflow filter kit, which is just a two-stage filter kit. They use a foam material and filter oil that's non-flammable. That way you don't need a backfire screen. So it just, you know, flows air a little bit better than those stock filters that have the backfire screen on them. So that's pretty much it, you know, for performance mods. And doing those couple things, you know, really wakes these bikes up. These bikes are pretty corked up from the factory. So doing an exhaust and fuel controller is going to make it run much better, especially at the lower RPMs. You're not going to have that sort of dead spot in the power band. Obviously, it's going to make it sound a lot better with the FMF muffler. So if you got one of these bikes or the WR250R and it's got the stock exhaust system on it, definitely look into changing that, because it'll kind of really transform the bike. So that's what we've done performance-wise. Now let me talk about what we did as far as the lights on the bike, the tail light, turn signals, stuff like that. Start at the back here. Replace the stock tail light and that kind of big ugly piece that hangs off the back of the bike with this DRC Edge 2 tail light kit and fender eliminator. Basically, it's a tail light and brake light. It's got the license plate light on the bottom, license plate mount, all bolts up to the subframe of the bike, and just really kind of cleans up the back end of the bike. And then bolted up to the side of that, DRC 601 LED turn signals. And then let me turn these on just so you can see what they look like when they're lit up. So that's what it looks like when they're lit up. And then in the front, also did a pair of those DRC 601s, bolted up to the top triple clamp where the stock signals used to be, using the DRC flasher mounts. One other thing you'll notice, the front turn signals are now on as running lights. The Yamahas pretty much all come from the factory with front turn signals that are on as running lights. Makes you a little bit more visible going down the road. When you do aftermarket LEDs, you're typically going to lose the running lights, but we've wired in a 12 O'Clock Labs running light adapter with these, which will make them work both as running lights and as turn signals. Highly recommend that. It's a little plug and play module that just wires in with the turn signals. Additionally, another 12 O'Clock Labs product, we're running the fixed rate turn signal flasher, which will make these aftermarket LEDs flash slow instead of hyper flash like LEDs will typically do if you don't replace that stock flasher relay. So that's it for the tail light and the turn signals. Now we've also replaced the stock headlight with this Acherbys LED Vision headlight, which is a universal fit headlight. We use these on a couple bikes. I've got them on my DRZ 400 SMs, and they fit these Yamahas really well too. They're universal, but they fit a lot of off-road and dual sport type bikes, basically strapped to the upper fork tubes. And I think they look really cool. They've basically got the rows of LEDs to the side of the headlight itself, which I think looks kind of cool, plus makes you a little bit more visible going down the road, especially at dusk and after dark, it looks really sharp. Now these LED vision headlights come with a halogen headlight bulb, and you can't see it here because the bike's not running, but we've replaced that halogen bulb with a Cyclops LED headlight bulb, which is just a much brighter bulb, and it's going to be a whiter color instead of that yellowish color you get with the halogens. That Cyclops LED headlight bulb will also fit in the stock headlight shroud, so if you got the stock headlight on the bike and you just want something brighter, we do carry the Cyclops LED bulbs. Sold a ton of those over the years for these bikes. Just going to be a lot brighter than those stock halogen bulbs. So that's it on the lights. Next up, let me talk about the handlebars and the handguards. These bikes come with 7/8" steel handlebars from the factory, just like the WR250R dual sport models. We've replaced those with Pro Taper Contours, which are 1 1/8" handlebars, and we went with the Woods High Bend. And then to mount those up, we're using the Pro Taper Universal Handlebar Mounts, which just sit down in the stock lower bar mount and allow you to mount the oversized handlebars. The oversized bars, you know, they're 1 1/8" where they bolt up, but then they do taper back down to 7/8 where the controls are mounted. So all your stock controls will go right back on. A little bit taller than the stock handlebar. You know, these universal bar mounts add about 3/4 of an inch to the height. And then these Woods High are a little bit taller. So I'd guess we're probably 1 inch to 1.25 inches higher than the stock handlebars with this setup. As far as handguards go, we've done the Sycra Pro Bend CRM handguards. CRM stands for Center Reach Mount. Basically, it has the handlebar clamps that mount over in the kind of towards the center of the handlebar, right by the handlebar mounts. They fit this bike real nicely. Those come in black. And then I think these originally came with plastic protectors that were, I think they were blue and white, something like that. But I ordered a set of the Sycra protectors in all black, and those just screw right to the front. I wanted sort of a blacked out look on the front. So that's the Sycra Pro Bend CRM handguards. As far as the seat goes, we replaced that stock seat with a Seat Concepts Comfort seat. And this is the standard height. So it's about the same height as the stock seat, but it is quite a bit wider. It's 1.5 inches or so wider than the stock seat. This is the semi-grip top. So it's still grippy, but not quite as grippy as the gripper top. And it's got the carbon vinyl on the sides. So again, that's the standard height. They also make these in a low height, which is very popular on the WR250R dual sport model, since it lowers your seat height about 3/4 of an inch. Very popular. Over the years, we've sold a lot of these for the WR250Rs and X's. Probably one of the best selling items if I'd had to look at it over the years. So that's the Seat Concepts Comfort seat. Replace the stock foot pegs with this DRC Motard foot pegs, or also called SRmoto foot pegs. A little bit wider than the stock pegs, and they have that red plastic protector on the bottom that protects the bottom of the foot peg. And also, if you do get the bike leaned over in the corners and the foot pegs contact the pavement, that will slide instead of dig into the pavement. So just a foot peg that DRC designed for SRmoto use. Replace the stock mirrors with our SRmoto mirrors. I've just got one left side mirror on the bike right now. Those just clamp on to the handlebars. Protection, skid plate. I'll start out with the skid plate. Now, you don't really need a skid plate on the Supermotos, but I still always put a skid plate even on the Supermotos that I don't really ride off-road. Just looks better. It protects the frame and the bottom of the engine and keeps it clean, keeps, stuff from the, flying up from the front tire off of the engine and frame, and you can just wipe the skid plate off. This is the Moose Racing plastic skid plate. Sold a ton of these over the years, again, not only for this bike, but also for the WR250R Dual Sport. I like the plastic skid plates on these bikes. They make less noise, they don't vibrate, and stuff like that. Real simple to install, and it really protects the sides of the engine and the frame. And I think I like these a little bit better than the aluminum skid plates that are on the market. So again, this is the Moose Racing plastic skid plate. Front sprocket cover, I think this one's from Sandman Parts, in black. Front sliders and rear axle sliders from a company by the name of SRmoto Engineering, which is no longer around, I don't think. I've had these on the bike forever. So in the rear, they're axle block sliders, and in the front, they're just axle sliders. Let's see here. A couple other things. IMS 3-gallon gas tank. Another very popular item for these bikes. They come, from the factory with a 2-gallon gas tank, which pretty small. So this gives you another gallon of fuel, and it looks factory. You wouldn't even really know that the bike has an oversized tank on it. The stock tank shrouds go right back on and everything. So if you're looking to get a little bit more range out of your bike, definitely consider one of these IMS tanks. You can get them in black like this. They also come in a natural color and also a blue plastic, so they come in a couple different colors. As I mentioned earlier in the video, this bike used to be all black, came that way in 2009. So I've bought a couple different sets of plastic for it. We're running WR250R side panels, which were always white. And then a couple different model years of the WR250R Dual Sport came with a white rear fender, as did I think the 2010 and 2011 X models. So I put a kind of a white fender and side panel on it, and then we're running a Cherby's SRmoto fender in the front, which is just a smaller front fender. It's got vents on the back side of it. Just looks a lot better on the SRmotos than the stock fenders do. Retro tank graphics from Magic SC. These are available. You can get them in blue, black and white, yellow, black and white, red, black and white. Just kind of give that bike kind of that real cool retro look that Yamaha had for a couple model years. Lowering link, another really popular item on these bikes. This is from Yamalink. Lowers the bike about 1 inch on its own, and then there's a factory lowering option that you do at the same time you install these that'll get you about another 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch. These are available in anodized black or anodized blue. Another super popular for especially the R model, since that bike's so tall. So that's the Yamalink lowering link. Drivetrain, I think we're running the stock front and rear sprocket sizes, but we've got DRC rear sprocket, which is a steel sprocket, and then we've got the DID 520 ERVT chain in gold. We use these on pretty much all of our dual sports and SRmotos. Real high quality chain that's available in gold. Tires, just put new tires on it. These are Bridgestone S20 Evo Hypersports, and we're running the stock sizes front and rear. So in the rear, it's a 140/70 by 17. You can also squeeze on a 150/60 by 17 if you want to. And then in the front, 110/70 by 17. So again, that's the Bridgestone S20 Evo Hypersports. Now, another thing we did recently, which was a really nice upgrade. The brakes on these bikes were always, pretty decent, but we run Galfer braided stainless steel lines and brake pads on a lot of our other bikes, and I'd always kind of left the stock brake lines and pads on this bike, but we decided to do Galfer braided stainless steel lines front and rear, as well as Galfer brake pads, and that really changed the braking. I mean, this bike has awesome brakes now, really good brake feel at the front brake lever and the rear brake pedal. And we did the smoke lines. You can still see the braided stainless steel through them, and the red fittings. So it's Galfer braided stainless steel lines front and rear, and then we did Galfer sintered front brake pads and semi-metallic rear brake pads. And the combination of the two really improves the brake. So if you're looking for better brakes on your WR250X or WR250R, definitely look into the Galfers. I actually did them on the R model, our dual sport model as well. I was so pleased with them. So that's the brakes. In my opinion, one of the better upgrades you can do to these bikes. Couple other items. A lot of this stuff you can't get anymore, but we did Z-Carbon used to make carbon fiber frame guards, so we've got those on here, and sadly those are no longer available. They also made a heel guard in carbon fiber that attaches to the top of the swing arm. No longer available, unfortunately. Rear caliper guard as well, carbon fiber. And then Zeta does make a chain guide in blue only. It kind of looks out of place on this bike since this bike doesn't have any blue on it, but this bike used to be blue. We've had it with blue plastics as well, so the blue, I just kind of left this on there. But that's the chain guide from Zeta Racing. And a couple other little bits here. Zeta engine plugs in red, and oil filler plug also in red. And I think that is about it. That's our WR250X SRmoto project bike. If you have any questions about it, leave a comment down below. I try to check those comments. I'll get back to you. Also have an email address listed on the website. If you found this video helpful, give us a like. And if you want to see more of these videos, subscribe to the channel. Again, it's Brett from SRmoto. Thanks for watching.